guys, I'm back. I wanted to say thanks for all the different comments that I've been getting on my blog, and one of the things that people have really been asking me about is what are the things that I miss the most living in France than living in the US. Obviously when you move abroad, the list gets really endless of the things that you miss back home. So I thought I would choose some of the things that really surprised me. You know, I knew when moving abroad to France that I would miss peanut butter, and I shoved it in my suitcase right when I left. But there were some things that I was really surprised about. So one of the first things I was really surprised about was space. I live in Paris now, as you know, and space is very, very tight. But before even living in Paris, when I was living in other small areas, Poitiers and Bordeaux, well, Bordeaux is not necessarily small, but in places where space isn't as tight as it is in Paris, I still notice that there's a massive difference in personal space. So I'm not even talking just when you're inside a bus or when you're in the train that people can be very close in the metro, but also even things like when you go out to a restaurant. If I'm a table of two, so I'm out to eat with a friend, they will put me at a table for four, and then they'll put another couple right next to you, somebody that you have no idea. So if they wanted to spend the entire dinner conversation listening to us, they could. Now quite used to after 9 years, but I was really surprised how bothered this was. I was really used to my own personal space when I'm eating, when I'm walking, when I'm taking public transportation, even though that didn't happen a lot in the States since our transportation isn't fabulous. But it was something that I had no idea I was going to miss, but I do like when I go home having this much larger bubble of space that I feel like people, strangers, don't penetrate. I didn't know I would miss so much is my car. I think this goes with the personal space thing because in France, it goes without saying that the French have amazing public transportation. The high-speed trains, all of the metros and the trams and the buses and the ways of getting around in France are endless, and they're really, really efficient. So you can get around without a car, especially depending on how big of a city you live in. But I really miss my car. I miss not just having that as a form of transportation as much as I miss the ritual of getting inside my car, of turning on my favorite music, of being in my own little bubble as I get to work. When you're stuck in traffic, it's just a way, it's just nice. I don't know, there's something I really miss about driving, which is really funny because I am not necessarily known as the best driver in my family. I had 3 accidents when I first got my driver's license. I was kind of a hot mess on the road, and to be fair, I've been in France since I was 21, so who knows if my driving has really improved, but I don't have a car anymore and I definitely miss it. So the third thing that I miss is really a surprise, and I never would have thought, but I miss a dryer. And you can absolutely have a dryer in France, but the norm is to wash your clothes in a washing machine and then hang them out to dry. Obviously this means if you're lucky enough to have a washer in your house, because I lived in many apartments where I went and washed and dried my clothes in a laundromat. So there are dryers in France, I'm not saying they're not, and I have lots of opportunities. If I want to go out and find a laundromat, I could dry my clothes, but we don't have the space in our apartment for a dryer. On top of that, I don't know a lot of people that actually have dryers. I know it's not really great for the environment, so it might come down to an environmental issue in France because they're way more on top of that than we are in the US. I know it's a space issue as well. The only people I know with a dryer live in an apartment that is really large by Parisian standards. So I'm not really sure why it actually is, but dryers, unless you go to a laundromat, aren't readily available everywhere. So it's something I miss. I love pulling out of the dryer those fluffy towels, warm towels before you take a shower, or taking a pair of jeans and throwing it in the washer and drying it and they come out all tight and brand new. Not to mention that you can kind of crank out a load of laundry in an hour and a half if you've got a dryer. So you have to be way more prepared in France without a dryer when you need clean clothes. The final thing, I'm not sure if it'll really be a surprise to people because it's something that is really evident from traveling from the US to France, but cigarette smoke is something that I never really thought was going to be a problem. And it's not necessarily a problem, but it's something that I surprisingly miss about being home in the States. One of the best things of Paris during the summer, or France during the summer, is putting yourself on a terrace and having drinks and watching people walk by and enjoying the weather. And you can't smoke inside restaurants or public places just like you can in the US, but you can absolutely smoke on terraces, and there's no such thing as like a smoking section and a non-smoking section on a terrace. So you can easily have someone sitting right next to you just puffing their cigarette right into your face. And some people are really polite about it, and they'll notice that smoke is coming your way and they'll be like, oh sorry, and they'll try to do something about it. And some people don't care at all, and they continue blowing smoke right into your face as you're eating and drinking. And since I don't smoke, it's definitely something that can be a little bit off-putting sometimes, and especially as I said, there's not a lot of space, so you very easily could be right next to that person as they're smoking. But it's also not even on the terrace. I sometimes walk to work. I have the luxury of actually living quite close to where I work, and so sometimes I'll walk to work and people walk and smoke. So if you're trying to get around people or beside people, you can easily get a whiff of their smoke, or at like 8:30 in the morning when you're on your way to work. If you're not a smoker, these are just like things that kind of irritate you as it gets blown in your face, and that big of a deal. But I do enjoy when I go home that it's just not as prevalent everywhere, and it's kind of nice. So thanks for checking out the video about the surprising things I miss living in France. I put some extra ones in the article that you can't see here in the video, so don't hesitate to go check out the article on intentionallyfrenchified.com. You can find the link below, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.